Thank you for having me. It's been like a very inspiring day, amazing, and I'm really happy to be able to engage in such a rich discussion about collective search of happiness and creative economy. So thank you for that. I will start this short presentation by addressing, just sharing the screen here, just 1 second. By addressing, oops, just 1 second. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see.
Yes, screen. Okay. So I'll start by addressing 4 principles I believe to be essential in today's architecture and design. So whenever we start a new project or product, especially nowadays, I believe we must take in consideration the history, society, politics, and ecology on the context we're in. So with that in mind, I developed my own creative and connections over time. One process I'd like to highlight is the healthy dialogue between local creative design and bigger industry. Regarding our history, Brazil is, when compared to Asian or European societies, a relatively new country, with just over 500 years old. However, our history is sadly not valued or protected as it should be. I have on the screen, this is the National Museum of Rio de Janeiro on its 200 year anniversary in 2018, when it burned to the ground. This particular museum, arguably the most important in Brazil, had over 200 years of history, 20 million cataloged items, and in just a few hours, over 90% of the collection was lost forever. History has a tendency to repeat itself, so it's up to us individually and collectively to change a vicious cycle into a virtuous one. Through the political aspects of it, and still using the National Museum fire as an example, the museum did not burn down because of an accident. It burned down because the funding destined towards maintenance and preservation of our historical heritage and institution is continuously being cut down to nothing. When you have a political situation where the public money is not destined towards to culture and education, or even worse, the money destined towards that is embezzled, we have a society that is not connected to its own history and cannot take ownership of their own culture. So about our society, Brazil is not only the indigenous culture, which is extremely rich by itself, but it's also the African culture. And not only that, we have the current biggest Japanese colony outside Japan. And we have also one of the largest Italian communities outside Italy. As an immigrant-formed nation, we have many different influences, creating a rich melting pot of diversity. And in spite of this cultural richness, we do not see here in Brazil, I believe, a creative coexistence. What is shown abroad is only a small aspect representing our entire culture. We are not only one thing, we are many different parts of a whole. And finally, regarding the ecological aspect, we are sadly not nearly educated enough on the impacts that our production has in the environment. Education is key to understanding and engaging the population in this crucial cause. Yes, the Amazon forest is extremely important, but we also need to focus in our smaller impacts because they add up in the long term. In this image on the screen, you can see sadly our main river here in São Paulo city, whose pollution is mainly to be blamed by the society, who made it into an open air sewer by throwing trash by its margins by many years. I believe that in order to have an environmentally conscious mind, we must be able to identify ourselves as the environment. Now, I'd like to show you two different cases I worked directly with. One is on product design scale, and another one is on architectural scale. So as a creative designer of a Brazilian furniture company that also works internationally, a couple years ago, I wanted to work with a material called terrazzo, which is not a Brazilian material, but has been extensively used in architecture in the 50s and 60s here in Brazil. So I got in touch with a small company that could develop this material for furniture design. Their product was like a commodity, and they made it almost mechanically without being competitive in any way. So I sat with the owner of the terrazzo company and showed him a few sketches and the possibility of developing something different with his knowledge. My intention at that time was to bring him closer to the furniture company I work with, but not in a way that he would be swallowed by an even bigger company. I wanted to develop together something that would make him see how far he could go with his product. So here is one of the products, the first one we developed together. It's called Nikki coffee tables. Seems to be a simple product, but at that point it was very difficult to connect, the lack of precision of the manual work with the excess of precision of an industrial company. So in this project, he had also the classic terrazzo, but I tried to make it in a different way with a twist. So we added mixture of coffee powder for the color, recycled beer bottles in different textures. And these pieces received awards internationally. And he could see his product in a completely different light. He could see the importance of his work, the possibilities, and he took pride on it. So the result is, as we are discussing here, a virtuous economic cycle, where a smaller company can blossom with the help of a bigger one. And now, 3 years later, people from all over the country get in contact with him for his product. And my work with him represents only 10% of his income. And through all this, the most beautiful thing was that he said to me that he fell in love with his craft and took the initiative to develop his own ideas. So last year, he got in touch with me with an idea. He developed terrazzo from discarded oyster shells, since he's from a small village for fishermen village here in Brazil, and noticed these beautiful natural products from his friends and being discarded. And together, we developed new lines of terrazzo and also new furniture with that, made from natural oysters, as you can see on the screen. So from my experience, yes, it's possible to connect big companies and small ones without sacrificing the identity and soul of the smaller creative producers. And well, for my final and second case, this is a bigger context. I have an ongoing project in the city of São Paulo, in the Ipiranga neighborhood, which is maybe the most important historical neighborhood in the country, since our independence was proclaimed there. And it's also where we have maybe the second most important museum in the country, the Ipiranga Museum, as you can see on the screen, which didn't catch on fire, but has been closed since 2013, after the state government discovered problems in its structure and never invested funds to repair it. The work to restore the building and reduce the damage started only in 2020. For 7 years, the authorities didn't foresee or fight for the reopening of a Brazilian landmark. Just to have an idea of proportions, the city of São Paulo has about the same population as Portugal. And the Ipiranga neighborhood has about the same population of cities like Lisbon, Manchester, Antwerp, Florence, and it's only 10 to 15 minutes far away from the downtown. And through many years, it's been left aside by intellectuals, entrepreneurs, and trendsetters, the very own people that claim to care about our history and our people. And the consequence of that is the death of those neighborhoods. As an architect, it is very important for me to be able to acknowledge the importance of this place and give them back their worth. That's how we can contribute to our city, since an architecture project can stimulate the circular economy and the growth of our people. My brother, who is my partner and also a lover of Brazilian history, saw in this neighborhood an amazing and massive abandoned structure that is over 100 years, which is a lot for Brazil. It was built as a donation to the city by a philanthropist, and it would later become a convent for nuns who destined their lives to support and educate abandoned children and young people. Well, we fell in love with the history, with the structure, with the architecture and its soul. And we have found ourselves enchanted with the possibility of designing a place that would become a creative hub where we would be able to promote a dialogue between the local community, local brands, big companies. The building will serve two purposes. It would be home to many citizens in the neighborhood of Ipiranga, and it will also harbor stores, restaurants, libraries, etc. And our main idea is to be able to connect different people and experiment with the so-called economics of happiness. For that, we developed this concept Solar Ipiranga as a synthesis of our beliefs. And we got in touch with Lily Ted, and we had the opportunity to discuss a lot about ecology, about everything, society, about history. And we end up with making a photo shoot that would showcase the soul of the property. The result of this work is a visual poem that references many elements of Brazil's rich natural beauty, dialoguing with history itself, highlighting the importance of our seeds, coffee, cacao, botany, cotton, and many other elements that are part of our history and culture. I dare say that we should never fear bringing people together and pushing unexpected collaborations. The dialogue between different minds is the very essence of the creative process. So this is what I wanted to show today. Thank you for the...
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
Very nice presentation.
Oh, thank you.
It's wonderful how clear and poetic at the same time you can be. Very rare.
Coming from you, it's a huge compliment.
You have very nice drawings, making it very clear, and then the words are very poetic. So it's
Thank you,
a combination. But also, again, to see the shells, come back in this whole day. And yet, material is very hopeful and also very important for other countries looking at us, and maybe triggering completely new ways of dealing with the waste of those beautiful materials. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot.